Hello students, I am Vishal sir from Igra High School and this is the part 3 of life processes. Today we are going to study respiration. Let's go through the books. We have discussed nutrition in organism in the last section. The food material taken in during the process of nutrition is used in cells to provide energy for various life processes. Diverse organisms do this in different ways. Some use oxygen to break down glucose completely into carbon dioxide and water. Some use other pathways that do not involve oxygen. In all cases, the first step is breakdown of glucose, which is a 6 carbon molecule, into 3 carbon molecule called pyruvate. This process takes place in cytoplasm. So here what we have read is about respiration. The food that we have consumed is absorbed by our body, but it has still to be utilized as energy in our body. For utilizing the food as energy in our body, oxidation and reduction reactions should take place in cell, and that oxidation and reduction reaction is carried out by cell in cellular respiration. So, in cellular respiration, these are the three steps that takes place in any organism. Glucose, which is a 6 carbon molecule, is present in cytoplasm. The process takes in cytoplasm, converts to pyruvate. Pyruvate is a 3 carbon molecule and energy is released during that. Now, after pyruvate, the condition differs in three different ways. First, in yeast, there is total absence of oxygen. That means no oxygen is present in it during respiration. So, when oxygen is not there, ethanol, carbon dioxide and energy is released. Here, the energy that we get in yeast is of low value compared to the energy which we get in the presence of oxygen. So, energy is gained in ATP, adenosine triphosphate. But if there is lack of oxygen, that means not the absence of oxygen, lack of oxygen, a small proportion of oxygen is there, then two byproducts are obtained, lactic acid and energy. Here, if you can see, in the absence of oxygen, pyruvate, which is a 3 carbon molecule, is converted to 2 carbon molecule, while in the condition where lack of oxygen is there, the 3 carbon molecule remains 3 carbon molecule. This happens in our muscle cells. When the organism or the cell has enough amount of oxygen, like in mitochondria, carbon dioxide, water and energy is released. Here ATP is in the more proportion compared to the given ATP in yeast, because there is presence of oxygen. Here also the 3 carbon molecule remains as 3 carbon molecule. Now if you see, as the byproduct of in all the three cases, the last part is energy over here, energy in this muscle cell also, and energy in oxygen also, in yeast also. So this is the energy that is utilized by cells, and this way the energy that we have gained through food is obtained by our body. Let's continue with the textbook. In all cases, the first step is breakdown of glucose, a 6 carbon molecule, into 3 carbon molecule called pyruvate. So, the 6 carbon molecule is actually glucose, but when it is converted into 3 carbon molecule, we call it as pyruvate. This process takes place in cytoplasm. Further, the pyruvate may be converted into ethanol and carbon dioxide. This process takes place in yeast, during fermentation. Since this process takes place in the absence of air, that is oxygen, it is called anaerobic respiration. So here you can see, in the absence of oxygen, what you get as ethanol, carbon dioxide and energy. This type of respiration is called anaerobic respiration, where the oxygen is absent. And in the matter of presence of oxygen, it is called aerobic respiration. So the respiration is divided into two parts, anaerobic and aerobic. Further, the pyruvate may be converted into ethanol and carbon dioxide. This process takes place in yeast during fermentation. Since this process takes place in the absence of air, it is called anaerobic respiration. Breakdown of pyruvate using oxygen takes place in mitochondria. This process breaks up the 3 carbon pyruvate molecule to give 3 molecule of carbon dioxide. The other product is water. Since this process takes place in the presence of air, it is called aerobic respiration. So, while our cell perform respiration, it produces water and carbon dioxide. These are the byproducts that our cells produce, and the same carbon dioxide is released during breathing. The release of energy in this aerobic process is lot greater than the anaerobic process. So if you compare the energy of aerobic respiration with the energy of anaerobic respiration, the energy obtained in aerobic respiration is of greater extent rather than anaerobic respiration. Sometimes where there is a lack of oxygen, means oxygen is not absent, but oxygen is given in small proportion, low proportion, you can better say like that. In our muscle cell, another pathway of the breakdown of pyruvate is taken. Here the pyruvate is converted into lactic acid, which is also a 3 carbon molecule. This builds up of lactic acid in our muscles during sudden activity and causes cramp. So while you work out, you feel cramps in your muscles. The pain that you feel in your muscles if you exercise a lot, that is due to the presence of lactic acid that has occurred as a byproduct during lack of oxygen in respiration. The energy released during cellular respiration is immediately used to synthesize a molecule called ATP. So whatever energy is released is converted to ATP. It is synthesizing a molecule calling ATP, which is used to fuel all other activities in the cell. In this process, ATP is broken down, giving rise to a fixed amount of energy which can drive the endothermic reaction taking place in the cell. Now here another one reaction is given, that is endothermic reaction. Since the aerobic respiration pathway depends on oxygen, aerobic organisms need to ensure that there is sufficient intake of oxygen. So whatever organisms conclude their respiration through aerobic way, they need lots and lots of oxygen for their as a source of energy. We have seen that plant exchange gases through stomata, and the large intercellular spaces ensure that all cells are in contact with air. Carbon dioxide and oxygen are exchanged by diffusion here. This what we are talking is about plant cell. So in plant cell, respiration occurs through diffusion, but not in animals. Animals has high intake of energy. They need more energy rather than plants. So they need more oxygen. For that they need more breathing to take place in their body. And diffusion alone cannot provide the whole the oxygen to the whole body. They can go into the cell or away from them and out of into the air. The direct diffusion depends upon the environmental condition and the requirement of the plant. At night, when there is no photosynthesis occurring, carbon dioxide elimination is the major exchange activity going on. So here you can see a statement where it states that during night time, even plants consume oxygen and release carbon dioxide. But in the nutrition, what we saw in desert plants, even during night time, the plants store in desert plants, especially in desert plants store carbon dioxide in their body for photosynthesis to occur during daytime. So here you can see the process of respiration is just like all other living organisms in plants also. During night time, carbon dioxide elimination is there, but during the daytime, carbon dioxide generated during respiration is used up for photosynthesis. This happens in plant. Hence, there is no CO2 release. Instead, oxygen release is the major event at this time. So during daytime, why does plant release oxygen? Because it needs carbon dioxide for photosynthesis. And during night time, it does the normal respiration just like other living beings. Animals have also evolved different organs for the uptake of oxygen from the environment and for getting rid of carbon dioxide produced. Terrestrial animals can breathe the oxygen in the atmosphere. We and other animals like us are terrestrial animals because we live on land. We intake oxygen present on in the atmosphere, but animals that live in water need to use oxygen dissolved in water. Now the amount of oxygen in water and the amount of oxygen in atmosphere is totally different. In atmosphere you get major amount of oxygen, that is the second largest gas present in the atmosphere, while in aquatic it is in very small proportion. So fishes need to take more and more input for oxygen at every second of their time. You can see in the diagram the different organs present in different organisms for respiration. So a spider has book lung, a chicken has lungs, fishes have gills. Now what does that do? Fishes drink water from the mouth and release water from the gills. The gills has special apparatus for absorbing oxygen dissolved in water. That oxygen is utilized by fish. Caterpillar has spiracles, and the sponge has inflow and outflow, means water flows through this sponges and it goes out from this part. So while this process takes place, oxygen is absorbed by sponge. Since the amount of dissolved oxygen is fairly low compared to the amount of oxygen in air, the rate of breathing in aquatic organism is much faster than that seen in terrestrial organism. So terrestrial organism use the oxygen present in atmosphere which is in high proportion. So you are getting high amount of oxygen from the atmosphere, while the aquatic animal does not gain that much oxygen from water. Water has less amount of oxygen compared to atmosphere. So they need faster breathing. Since the amount of dissolved oxygen is fairly low compared to the amount of oxygen in air, rate of breathing in aquatic organism is much faster than that seen in terrestrial organism. Fishes take in water through their mouth and force it past the gills, where the dissolved oxygen is taken up by blood. Terrestrial organisms use the oxygen in the atmosphere for respiration. This oxygen is absorbed by different organs in different animals. All these organs have structure that increases the surface area which is in contact with the oxygen rich atmosphere. The organisms have certain organs or specialized organs which absorb oxygen from the atmosphere. We as human beings and other animals also have developed such organs. The organs that we have just seen in that diagram shows us the different organs that absorb oxygen from atmosphere. All these organs have a structure that increases the surface area which is in contact with the oxygen rich atmosphere. Since the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide has to take place across this surface is very fine and delicate. So lungs in all the animals and other organs in all the insects are very delicate organs. In order to protect this surface, it is usually placed within the body. So there have to be passages that will take air to this area. In addition, there is a mechanism for moving the air in and out of this area where the oxygen is observed. Here we are talking about the respiratory system, the system through which our body absorbs oxygen from